Hey there. I wonder if you've been feeling a little like a stranger in your own life lately. Not in some dramatic sense, just quietly, almost as though you're moving through your days, doing what needs to be done, answering messages, meeting responsibilities, showing up where you're expected to show up, yet somehow feeling absent from your own experience, as though your life is continuing, but you don't entirely feel connected to the person living it. And maybe that's difficult to explain, because from the outside, things may appear ordinary enough. You're functioning, you're trying, you're carrying on. But somewhere beneath all of that, there's a subtle distance. And perhaps you've caught yourself wondering, when did I stop feeling like myself? I think many people know this feeling, though few speak about it, because disconnection rarely arrives overnight. It happens quietly. Responsibilities increase, disappointments leave their mark, certain dreams change shape, and little by little, you become so occupied with managing life that you stop participating in it with the same sense of presence, not because you've stopped caring, and certainly not because you failed, but because human beings can only carry so much before they begin living from necessity rather than connection. Sometimes survival asks so much that self-reflection gets pushed aside, and perhaps that's what hurts. Not that everything is falling apart, but that somewhere along the way, you stopped hearing your own voice beneath all the noise. You stopped asking yourself quieter questions. What has been weighing on me? What have I been enduring without acknowledging? What have I been grieving while pretending I was fine? Because grief isn't always about losing people. Sometimes we grieve seasons, versions of ourselves, unfulfilled hopes, relationships that changed, dreams that never unfolded the way we imagined. And when those things remain unspoken, they don't disappear. They simply settle deeper within us. So if you've been feeling disconnected, perhaps it isn't because you've lost yourself. Perhaps you've been carrying experiences that deserve understanding, not dismissal. I don't believe people lose themselves as easily as they fear. I think they become exhausted. I think they adapt. I think they spend so much energy being strong that they forget strength was never supposed to mean abandoning themselves. And honestly, that deserves tenderness, not judgment, because you've still been here, even during the seasons when joy felt distant, even when you questioned who you were becoming, you've still been here, and that matters more than you realize. I think one of the deepest misunderstandings we carry is the belief that we are supposed to remain familiar to ourselves forever, as though life should leave us untouched. But nothing alive remains unchanged. Not rivers, not forests, not people. And perhaps what frightens us isn't change itself. Perhaps it's the fear that if we've changed too much, we may no longer recognize the person we've become. But maybe you were never meant to become one fixed person. Maybe being human isn't a destination. It's a relationship, a lifelong relationship with someone who keeps evolving, someone shaped by joy and sorrow, by hope and disappointment. And perhaps what tragedy isn't that you've changed. Perhaps the tragedy would be demanding that you remain unchanged after everything you've lived through. Because look at all you've carried. The disappointments you swallowed quietly, the nights you held yourself together without knowing how, the expectations you outgrew, the parts of yourself you had to rebuild. Of course you're different. How could you not be? And maybe the person you've been missing isn't behind you. Maybe they're here, not exactly as they once were, but deeper, more honest, more compassionate. Perhaps what you've mistaken for losing yourself has actually been the painful process of outgrowing identities that no longer fit. And maybe reconnecting with yourself isn't about going backward. Maybe it begins with meeting this version of yourself with curiosity instead of disappointment, with patience instead of pressure, with kindness instead of criticism. You have lived through too much to expect yourself to remain unchanged. So don't mistake unfamiliarity for loss. You are still here, still becoming, still worthy of being known by yourself. And that means your story is not missing you. It is still unfolding, still making room for chapters you haven't read yet. And for now, perhaps you don't need to have yourself completely figured out. Perhaps you only need to trust that the person you've been searching for may already be quietly finding their way back to you.